Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. Welcome to another weekly study. And today, in order to help you pass the ACE exam, hopefully on the first attempt, I'm going to give you two pieces of information in this particular video. I'm really killing two birds with one stone, simply because I saw a couple of really interesting posts in the Facebook group, and so I just wanted to kind of cover these two elements. One was specific to it's basically the one rep max assessment, and a student made a really good point. And I generally don't like to just bring up stuff that ACE really is not as well equipped to explain as some other more appropriate certifications are that are out there, especially from a powerlifting perspective. I'm going to be honest with you. The whole concept of doing a one rep max for any client makes little to no sense. Honestly, there's literally only one person. Now I'm talking to you as an actual trainer. I've been training people for literally 4 decades now, actually. Okay. So 30 plus years of actually training people. I've trained athletes. I've trained high level, national level athletes. I've worked with professional athletes, and I've worked with folks that are basically incapable of lifting 3-pound dumbbells. And guess what? For the most part, I never do a one rep max. It's for one type of client, a competitive power lifter. So I'm telling you all that to help you to understand how I'm going to go through the rest of this. It's great material. In this case, unnecessary. At the end of the day, as one of the students actually answered or in a reply to the post, for the test, do not do the Valsalva maneuver, period. When you see a question on the test, I'm making this real easy for you from a study perspective. Don't do the Valsalva maneuver. However, I think it was Logan basically said, wait a minute, you got to do the Valsalva maneuver if you're doing like a bench press or even a squat. And my answer to that is, well, obviously, I started out as a power lifter in my own personal pursuits. I was a power lifter. Of course, you hold your breath, but it's only for a moment. Now, just keep that in mind. And we got to be very clear what ACE should have said in that particular chapter. I'm going to pull it up for you on the screen because I've got the digital copy as well as the hard copy. What they should have mentioned was a more precise definition or a precise recommendation when it comes to the Valsalva maneuver. If you're doing a one rep max anything, which again, I never recommend. I've never done one rep maxes with any client ever. I've trained power lifters and I still didn't do one rep maxes. We don't do it. Now, are there people that do it? Yeah, of course there are. Athletic trainers do it. I don't know why they do it, but they do it to develop their training protocols, percent of one rep max. Useless for the average client. I would never, the idea of using maximum weights on the average client. Now, I will say this. ACE actually does say that. Don't do one rep maxes with people. The average client would never do it. And so they hit it right on the target. Absolutely. They're correct. In fact, on this part, I'm going to show this to you right here. By the way, this is page 446, obviously, muscle strength assessments. They tell you when a personal trainer is deciding on an appropriate strength assessment, any of these should be chosen with thoughtful consideration. Okay, one rep assessments should only be performed. Right, so few, if any, of your clients are going to be in the load speed training phase in the IFT model. If you come down here, conducting maximal exertion assessments, right? Squats is not necessary for most clients as a starting point for baseline for training. Well, I'm going to tell you that unless you are a competitive powerlifter, it's never necessary, which basically tells you that the next couple of pages are irrelevant, except from a testing perspective. So let's make sure we understand. When I'm doing a study with you, I'm helping you to pass the test. That's number one, right? Number one, pass the test. You actually using something like this? Oh, no. No, never. Of course, I would never do this with a client. I hope you never do it with a client. This is why, this is where we get to the second part of this study, which is to answer another question. Now, I've actually done another video on this, and I'm going to move all the way to where I believe, because the student that posted it did not give me a specific question. She said she was just struggling with understanding how to conduct a 1 rep max protocol or sequence. And the answer, look, if you go back to those previous pages that I just went through, it gives the entire pre-assessment setup, how to actually do it. Anytime, just keep this in mind, anytime you are looking through this textbook and in the text, you see this level of precision and all of this explanation on how to do something with a 1 rep max, the chances are that's not going to be on the exam, anything precise in there. However, for sure, you will see questions on this particular testing protocol. Now, that leads us to the second part I wanted to talk to you about, which is table 1025 and the apply what you know, estimating 1 rep max. And I did an actual study on this, and I want to reference you back to that. I'll probably just throw it in the description below, just so you can go directly to that study that I did. But let me just help you out a little bit with this. The confusion that most folks have is when they get to the submax strength assessment part of this. And I'm not saying it's not well explained, but I'm going to tell you it's not well explained. And the reason is that they give you two tables. One is a general 1RM, right? So based on the number of repetitions that they can do with a certain amount of weight, that's going to predict their 1 rep max. What does it mean? Let me pull this down, get this out of the way. If you're able to do 1 repetition, and by the way, the point of this table 1025, which is supposed to be explained back over in here or somewhere in here, the whole point is that no matter what you do, whether it's a 1 rep max for a dumbbell curl, which makes no sense, whether it's a bench press or a squat or goodness, it could be a tricep push down. That's the point, is that this is a general, non-specific table that basically tells you that if you do a calf raise on a calf raise machine and you can only do 1 repetition, see how absurd that is? Why would you do a 1 rep? You get the idea. But if you were, and it was 1,000 pounds, then that means that you're at 100% of your 1 rep max. If you were doing let's pick an exercise. Let's say you're doing a dumbbell press, shoulder dumbbell press. Why would anybody do I don't know. But the point is that what this table tells you, I don't want you to get confused. All the table tells you is that on a particular exercise, like a dumbbell press, if I grab 50-pound dumbbells and I go from here and I'm only able to do 1 rep and I can't do another one, I'm at my max, my 1 rep max. But let's say I use a 50-pound dumbbells and I'm able to do 1, and then I get a second one out, right? Well, that means I'm using 50 pounds. I'm probably at 95% of my 1 rep max, which simply means that my true 1 rep max would be, 55 pounds or 54.3 pounds. I hope that makes sense. That's what that table is basically telling you. Jump over here real quick. Again, I've already done a study on this, and I want you to reference back to that, but real quick, so that the frustrated confusion part of this is kind of relieved a little bit. In the apply what you know box, all this said was that, look, we know that there is this other table on this other page. However, there are prediction coefficients that are more targeted to these 2 different exercises, right? Look, you know as well as I do, right? And again, you can go back, and if you really need me to redo it because I didn't do a good job on that first one, please let me know and I'll redo it. But the point is that you know as well as I do, there's 3 exercises in the world of weightlifting, and it's really powerlifting, competitive powerlifting, there's really only 3 exercises we ever care about a 1 rep max: the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. Okay. We never do deadlifts, regular deadlifts with clients. Never. Stiff-legged deadlifts. That's it. Okay. And if you want an answer to that, then just put it in the comment below and I'll give you if you want the biomechanical and technical details on that. We would never do deadlifts, average deadlifts with the average client. Not only that, you would never do 1 rep maxes unless you were training a power lifter. And I told you, even then, I never did singles. With triples that was it. If I could get my triples, I knew on the day of competition with either myself or a client that was a power lifter, I could guesstimate what their singles were going to be for competition, but never, ever run that risk. That second chart that you saw on that page tells us that there are specific coefficients to help us determine what the 1 rep max would be. In other words, the only reason you do submaximal testing for strength is because you're smart enough to know that you would never use enough weight to get a single repetition on a bench or a squat. Look, ACE can only do so much when it comes to getting the details of a lot of this information out. Please understand, folks, pass the test. Let me say that again. Pass the test. It's their test. You play the rules. You play the game by their rules. They're not wrong. I mean, none of the information is wrong. And by the way, if you want to learn how to actually be a trainer, there's a lot of great information in here. Of course there is. Go to Body Design University. Come to our live course, for instance. There's a link below. If you want more information on that, then we tell you exactly how all of this stuff is either used or not used in the real world. But remember, we want you to pass the exam, right, on the first attempt, if you're at that point. The material in the textbook gives you a ton of information, lots of tools that you can use when you are actually training people. Okay. In this particular case, and by the way, I hope this was helpful. In this particular case, simple answer: just answer the question the way they want you to answer the question. The Valsalva maneuver is generally it's defined as the ability to create intra or interthoracic pressure. That is the Valsalva maneuver. You technically don't really use that maneuver for anything more than about a half a second at the very bottom. You pause, hold your breath briefly, and then you forcefully exhale to move that weight, no matter what the exercise is. So technically they are correct, but as a power lifter, you would know that you have to have a little pause and hold your breath slightly. So it's a definitional issue. I want to make sure that we kind of get that right. Look, leave a comment below. I probably rambled on more than you wanted to hear, but I want you to pass the test. Okay, I want you to pass their exam. If you have comments or questions, leave them below. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. Look, there's a notification button there as well. You can ping that, and you'll find out when all the new material is coming out. It's always a pleasure going over this material with you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.